the air we breathe. Probably something that many of us don't give much thought to living out day-to-day life. Yet it fuels our biology, and without it, we would cease to be. But as important as it is for us to breathe quality, clean air, it's even more critical for your plants. And in today's video, I'm going to explain why. Welcome to Fullmelt Extractions. I'm David, and if you're a solventless extractor or you want to learn to be one, I'm here to help you gain the knowledge you need to elevate your craft to the next level. In my video on how to grow for solventless extracts, I said, now this is not a growing tutorial channel, so I'm not going to go over every little detail of how to set up your grow, what environmental conditions to maintain, etc. And growing really isn't the focus of this channel, so I'm not trying to go too far in the weeds off in that direction, if you'll pardon the pun. But I do want to set you up for success best as possible. And one area where I think a lot of people negatively affect the flavor of their extract in their growing process is not properly filtering and cleaning the air that your plants are breathing, all throughout their life, but especially in bloom. Air is essential to almost all living things. As I mentioned earlier, for most animals like us, it fuels our biology. But it doesn't, strictly speaking, make up our biology. You're probably familiar with the phrase, "you are what you eat." The saying references the fact that as animals, our structure and our biology is made up out of the chemically digested molecular building blocks of the things that we eat. But if humans were sentient plants, there would also probably be a common phrase to the effect of, "you are what you breathe." We primarily get the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and other elements that make up our biological structure through ingesting food. Then we breathe oxygen to fuel a bunch of processes in our body, incorporating that food into our own structure. Plants also feed in a similar way to us, directly ingesting nutrients through their roots from the water saturating their growing medium. But unlike us, plants don't get their carbon from their food and don't breathe oxygen for energy. They rely on a process called photosynthesis, which converts light into sugars to fuel the plant's processes. Plants do breathe, however, but unlike us, they don't breathe oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. They breathe carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. This is where they get their carbon, and they use it mainly for two things: building the actual structure of the plant and breaking down sugars to get energy. So unlike us, plants are quite literally partly built of the air they breathe. This is why it's so critical to make sure that your plants are breathing the cleanest air possible. And if you do no filtering or air purification at all, I guarantee you it will negatively affect your quality. I mean, think of the air blowing through your typical house. Think of how dusty your countertops get if you don't dust for 8 to 10 weeks. If you use no air filtration or purification in your grow, that amount of dust is going on your flowers every crop, even though you may not be able to see it because it takes at least 8 to 10 weeks to flower out even reasonably fast cultivars properly. Add on top of this all the things that tend to float through the air in an average home, like shed skin cells and tiny hairs, especially if you have pets, and it's easy to see why it's very beneficial to filter and purify all the air that your plants breathe, especially in the light of the fact that, in part, it's what they'll be building their literal structure out of, including those lovely aromatic little hydrocarbons that we like to refer to as terpenes. If you're using a grow tent or whether you're working in a closet, wherever you are, ideally you want to isolate the airflow. As much as possible, control the air flowing in and the air blowing out. You can do this by setting up intake and exhaust fans. Too many openings for air to come in or out, and you won't get a nice directional airflow that'll keep the air exchanging nicely in your room in an ideal way. Also, if the air is only coming in or exhausting out through your fans and filters, your air purifiers won't have to work harder than normal. Your plants will be breathing cleaner air, and once you get to flowering, your exhaust filter will be much more effective in controlling odors. I'll provide a link in the description to a small 6-inch inline carbon filter of the type that I recommend for your intake. This isn't of the type you use to cover up smell coming out of the exhaust. This one is only a few inches thick and only costs about $20. On the exhaust, I like to use the standard larger size carbon filter. You can pick a cheap one up on Amazon for about $60. These do a great job controlling odors later in the flowering stage. However, they do need to be changed every 6 months of use or so. Finally, directly inside the grow space, I like to use a small home air purifier with both HEPA filtration and UVC light, appropriate to the size of the tent or room. These do a great job of picking up any dust particles that might have made it past your filtration system, as well as the UVC light being great for killing off any potential mold or mildew spores that might be in the air. For $100 or so, you can pick one up that will do a decent sized room and about half that for a grow tent sized unit. Any part of the unit that emits light, you will have to cover with some kind of opaque tape when you're not using the controls, because they can disrupt your plant's sleep cycle. This trio of equipment will keep your plants breathing cleaner air than you are, which is a huge benefit and a big part of the secret to the tastiest, cleanest extracts, especially during the flowering process. All I know is when my plants are breathing cleaner air, I breathe a little easier. One last thing, and I know a lot of people do this, but one thing I really don't recommend doing is using your garden as a smoke spot. I know it's cool to sit and smoke there and think about the future harvest that you're about to pull in the upcoming months, but honestly, stop and think about it. If you raised pigs, would it occur to you to hold a weekly pork rib barbecue in the pig pen? And beyond that, after doing all this work to keep the air your plants are breathing so clean, do you really want to go in the garden just to add extra contaminants to the air supply your plants are breathing? Even if you don't breathe it on the plants and you blow it directly into the exhaust, this now means you're going to need to change your carbon filter sooner rather than later, as regularly blowing smoke in it will wear it out much more quickly. Do yourself a favor, save the extra stress on your plants, save the wear on your equipment, and partake outside of the grow room. Anyone else out there have any air cleaning or purification tips or methods they like to use that I missed in this video? Sure would be great if you left it down below. Let's hash it out in the comments section as usual. Thanks for watching. As always, this has been David with Fullmelt Extractions, reminding you to keep up that passion for the hashing. Happy hashing.